This video is the first of two that highlights some writing formats for professionals. In this video, we will briefly look at professional writing formats such as press releases, newsletters, and briefing notes. Further details can be found in Shaw Field Guide to Professional Communication or another good guidebook. As with any piece of writing, you need to consider the purpose and the audience. Look at your content. Do you have the adequate amount of research? Then focus on what is important for your purpose and audience. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. Also, consider what the audience will remember. Considering the context forces you to think about how to present the information. Is there an angle or a philosophy that will appeal to your audience? Of course, different purposes require different formats, such as proposals, memos, briefing notes, press releases, and so on. Make sure that you know your topic. One way to do this is to explain it to someone else in one sentence. Always document your sources with citations and a reference list, and only include visuals such as maps, photos, or diagrams if they add to your ability to clearly communicate the research or information. Don't include them just because they look good. Remember to grab your reader's attention quickly with a clear statement that explains your purpose. Then, as you develop your point, make sure that the reader can easily figure out what is important. In general, the most important information should stand out, so you don't want to bury it in the middle of a paragraph. Place it at the beginning or possibly the end of a paragraph. Use a variety of lengths for sentences and for paragraphs, remembering that sometimes short sentences can be best for explaining complex ideas. Also remember to reduce the fog in your writing. You can do so by not using long sentences with lots of clauses. Be as concise and to the point as possible. Another way is to use simple language. For example, use now instead of a phrase like at the present time. Quotations can be useful, but they should only be used if they add impact to your message. They should never be used as filler. To improve readability, don't use too many numbers in any sentence. Also, don't forget to provide signposts for your readers by using transitions accurately. Then finally, print it out and proofread it carefully. Some people like to read the document backwards, one word at a time. Doing so can help make awkward phrases and grammar errors stand out. Now, these tips are true for any type of writing, and we have covered a lot of them in more detail in other videos. In terms of some specific types of writing, a press release is a statement that's prepared for distribution to the media. It's something that's intended to be interesting, accurate, informative, and useful. Now, not all press releases are actually read and used, so to increase the likelihood that your press release will be used, stick to the standard format. When you're writing for busy readers, a standard format for things like press releases allows the reader to find the important information quickly. Press releases are usually only one page in length and are used to make some sort of announcement. This is one type of document where you will want to use a series of short paragraphs. Finally, it is extremely important that you include contact information. If you're making an announcement about an event or an achievement, you're hoping to attract the attention of the media. You're hoping that the media will either come to the event or interview someone who accomplished something important. So if you don't have contact information, how can the media contact you? Take a look at this online press release for UIT. Read it carefully, noting the information that is included in it. So we have photographs, we have a title, and then we get into the details of the press release. And then at the bottom we have about UIT with the contact information. The standard format for press releases is as follows. In the first line you state, for immediate release. Second line is just a space, a blank line. In the third line, write the headline using caps for just the first letters and lowercase for the rest of each word. Your headline should be about 10 words or less in length, and it should be attention-grabbing, something that's compelling and bold. But avoid using puns unless you're really, really good at it, and your pun is really very good. The fourth line is another space. In the fifth line, you provide the city, the province, the date, and then the 5 W's. In the second or third paragraph, include 1 or 2 quotes that humanize the story, but make sure the quotes are very good. In the final paragraph, provide some background information. This might be boilerplate stuff, information that's included in every press release from your company or institution. This paragraph would also include the contact information. Finally, close with the number 30 or the number signs to indicate that it is the end of a press release. Now, there's 10 rules of press releases. If you remember that news companies, whether they're newspapers, radio, or TV stations, or websites, they may receive hundreds of press releases every day. Therefore, you need to make sure that your press release is truly newsworthy and interesting. You should target your recipients, know who you're sending the press release to by doing research on the media outlets, be economical in your word count, get to the point quickly, be interesting, don't ramble, use the correct format, and be time sensitive. If you send out news releases long after an event has happened, or with too short a notice for upcoming events, then it's no longer going to be newsworthy. When you research the media outlets, find a contact to send your press release directly to. Make sure that you're accurate in your press release and only include attachments if absolutely necessary. Remember, you're writing for busy people who want the facts quickly and concisely. Remember to avoid using stale news, so stuff that happened last week or last month. Avoid jargon and acronyms that the general public is not familiar with. Things like writing in all capital letters is really annoying and hard to read. Proofread everything carefully to make sure there's no careless grammar or spelling mistakes. And make sure that you have solid content and that you avoid hype. And that includes overusing exclamation marks. You may be excited, but you're trying to be a professional here. Another common type of document that you may have to write, no matter whether you're working or volunteering somewhere, is a newsletter. Newsletters can be very useful for small organizations who do not have a lot of money for expensive advertising. For larger organizations, they can be useful for providing information on segments of the company or to keep employees up to date on what's happening in the larger corporation. Newsletters can come on paper or electronically. Now, each of them have their own unique advantages and disadvantages, and I'll talk briefly about some of them here. In terms of costs, newsletters are relatively inexpensive compared to print or television advertising. Mail costs can be reduced if the newsletter is sent as bulk mail or business mail, and of course, costs can be further reduced with a web-based newsletter. However, costs can escalate if a great deal of time is spent designing and writing the newsletter, which is quite challenging, so it does take quite a bit of time. There are also higher costs for doing direct mailings. In addition, there's the time requirements for managing a mailing list. Even the smallest newsletter takes time to put together and send out. In terms of content, one of the advantages is that you have full control over what goes into each newsletter. But, on the other hand, it's also difficult to confirm if the newsletter is being read. In terms of timing, you can fully control when the newsletter is sent out or not. But if you set a schedule for publication, then you have to meet those time frames. Many small organizations have trouble meeting such commitments just because their personnel, they have such a small personnel. A regular newsletter is a good way to create a relationship with your target audience. People like to know what's going on in the organizations that they support or belong to. However, whether you create a paper or an online newsletter, there's no guarantee that the newsletter is reaching your audience. With paper, many people refuse bulk mailings. With electronic newsletters, spam blockers may prevent the newsletter from reaching its target audience. Today, there's also the problem of information overload. There are so many ways of communicating relatively cheaply that people are often inundated with too much information. So be certain that a newsletter is necessary for your organization. If you're creating one, plan it well with a clear and easy-to-read layout, highlighting important information rather than extraneous details.